And now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. We're joined again by Arise News analyst Dr. Constance Ikoku. Welcome back.
Thank you, Nkechi. Good to see you guys again. It's been a while. Glad to be back. Okay, let's look at what's making the headlines today. We will begin with this day newspaper. In this day, we'll look at a couple of top stories. Presidential initiative signs deals with 75 firms to expand use of gas-powered vehicles nationwide. And then there is the second assassination attempt on Trump in 2 months. We've already looked at that before. And the federal government lifting of petrol at Dangote Refinery marks return of industrialization. Let's focus on expanding the use of gas-powered vehicles. This is coming under the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative. It aims to expand, of course, the use of gas for vehicles. Already 6,000 to 7,000 conversion kits have been distributed so far to some states, and there's more to come by the end of the year. There are 75 conversion partners across 8 states: Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, Delta, Kogi, Nasarawa, FCT, Kaduna, and others to come. Well, the point here is that the FG is moving ahead with this policy. There are some benefits. There's cheaper energy, less pollution, cleaner environment, and diversification of energy sources indeed.
The talk will always be, why did he put the cart before the horse? It's good that they're doing what they're doing now, but this is what was supposed to have been done and settled before you say fuel subsidy, go. Fine and good. They had 13 centers. Now they have 130. 9 states, or is it 8 states? They want to add 9 states. We'll watch and see how that plays out, making sure it's not costly for people. And then again, the time span that it'll take for people to get this, and then for prices to, go down, because fuel affects not just the car drivers, petrol affects, everything we do in this country.
Well, everything is in the works. Nkechi, when you look at this policy, it seems to be a good one because Nigeria actually is a gas country. We have gas in abundance, and then we haven't fully tapped into it or utilized it. But apart from using it for vehicles, it should be expanded for full utilization in other parts of or other sectors of the economy, don't you think so?
Yes, we need to see this policy work in this, what they're trying to do right now, which is for transportation. And I think the pace is commendable. And like Indy said, this is what we've been talking about. This is what should have been done. But now they're doing it and they're informing us. Going up from 13 to 75 partners across the state. They're saying by the end of the year, they'll have 250. I think it's commendable, and another angle to look at this is also sort of the scale of jobs that they're saying that this initiative will promise: around 100,000 direct jobs, 25,000 technicians to be basically empowered through across the 1,000 conversion centers. Yes. And so it's good to see that this is happening. It's also a lot better that we're having this communication, because a lot of people were thinking, oh, the government is just folding their hands. But it's good to see that they're doing this, they're pacing themselves, they're telling us, look, this is what we aim to achieve by the end of the month, and this is how we're going to do it by the end of the month and also long term. So we'll see how that pans out.
Just a line, Constance. I'm just wondering, not just a line, I'm wondering, this is a boot. What happens to the boot? I'm just wondering, because people are supposed to put their packages in the boot.
There.
Well, questions to be asked.
I'm just wondering.
This is a new project. We'll see how it goes. We'll be watching and giving you updates. Let's move to New Telegraph. Nigeria's exports to African countries up 226.3% to 4.61 trillion naira. A lot of good news here, because when you look at the headlines, a lot of negative news. So this is a fresh of breath air. But even when you look at the National Bureau of Statistics, there's a lot of information about Q1 2024, our exports to other countries. We're exporting mainly to South Africa, Ivory Coast, Senegal, Benin Republic, Togo. We're also importing from other African countries like South Africa, again, Ivory Coast, Egypt, Morocco. Most of the exports are petroleum oils, minerals, urea, cement, clinkers, flowers, soya beans, and the rest of them. The benefits of intra-African trade are many. It is crucial. It leads to increased overall economic growth, job creation, knowledge transfer, and it builds capacities Africa needs to boost intra-African trade.
Interconnectivity, very, very important. Is a good deal. Is a good thing happening. I mean, volumes have been spoken about the fact that before you talk about trade with foreign partners, what are you doing about your own African continent? Are you trading with yourselves enough, helping yourselves enough so you can even block the dumping? And then what happens with the foreign trade, reducing the earnings of Africa and Nigeria?
I mean, we still have a very long way to go. And Nkechi, talking about the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, this is one of the reasons why this is also a very interesting story, because with the AFCFTA, if it works, what we are going to be seeing is that we'll be building value chains that we need across the continent. We need those value chains. When it comes to international trade, we are near non-existent. In the capitalist world, Africa doesn't have a seat, doesn't have a say. So this is very important for the continent.
Yes, I mean, when I read the story this morning, I thought, wow, credit to the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement that's supposed to see or create that sort of large free trade area in Africa to be the largest in the world. However, I think we're at a time where African countries are taking the opportunity where you have global supply chains being disrupted, Western countries maybe rethinking their alliances with some African countries. So this is a perfect time to seize that opportunity and sort of see how it can be sustained, because these numbers are good. And I like that we're talking about some good news coming out of Nigeria. Yes. But obviously you have Africa, yeah, you have other countries like Kenya as well, South Africa, Egypt, also vying to have a slice of this intra-Africa trade growth. And so it's a good one.
There are 54 countries with 1.3 billion people. I think there's a lot that can be done on this continent. Let's move on to Daily Trust. In Daily Trust, 400 million naira budgeted for Alau Dam in 4 years. Dam neglected for years, Zulum. Its defects discovered 9 years ago, according to report. There's fear of disease that is growing. Survivors are washing and cooking in the contaminated water. I mean, we've seen the flood waters, complete devastation in many areas in Borno State, and there's a lot that has been said about it. But now it is time to review what happened, which is, why we're seeing the story, how much was budgeted, were the repairs done, were the maintenance done, how do we prevent this from happening again? That's where we are. Review of what has occurred indeed.
Well, over the weekend I treated this issue. There's a talk that it wasn't the dam, Alau Dam, that is intact, that the cause was water that flowed from Ngada River, flowed into the Alau Dam, and it was one of the dikes. Now, the difference between a dike and a dam, what a dike does, according to them, is that a dike stops water from entering. Dam stores the water. The dike stops water from entering and overflowing. But the dikes were not maintained, or the dike that broke was not maintained. But before then, there's been talk about the fact that one of the commissioners assured Borno indigents, Borno people, that no cause for alarm. They went to inspect it, I think, maybe a week or so before this happened. So there's a talk between Utsef, the Minister of Water Resources, and then experts now saying that there has not been desilting, and the fact that maintenance has to occur regularly. So, I mean, it's between the minister and the experts talking now, which is which. Right.
Well, the bottom line is that people want to see solutions. Let's move on to Guardian. Nkechi will bring you in there. In Guardian newspaper, confusion over pump price subsidy as FG offtakes Dangote Petrol. NNPC insists on $898 per litre, excluding associated costs. NNPC offers $125 million letter of credit for September loading. Iman to engage NNPC groans over 1,000 naira per litre, ex-depot price. I mean, there's a lot to chew on this headline. Every subheading here could be a story on its own. But I think the point is Nigerians do not want to hear a lot of all the stories. Provide petrol at affordable prices. That's what we want to see, Nkechi, isn't it?
Exactly. And when we started really talking about Dangote Refinery, started seeing that, look, in a couple months, this will come into fruition. Nigerians were a bit excited. Okay, maybe petrol will not only be available, but the price will reduce. But what we're seeing right now is that it seems like it's going to remain the same. And you also have, when we were talking about the Dangote Refinery in anticipation to when it will be in production, there was a lot of hide and seek about pricing, even up until now. And you also have the NNPC hinting that, look, they have sort of leverage to buy petrol cheaper on the global market. So essentially they are telling Dangote, look, if you're not going to sell us at a reasonable price, we're going to take our business elsewhere. And so it's a bit confusing, like The Guardian has put it, for everyone involved, especially Nigerians that are still on the queue waiting for fuel right now. In
fact, one of the sub-headlines here says Dangote Refinery still in pre-commissioning phase, not fully licensed. A lot going on there. We'll see. We'll be giving you an update anyway. Let's move on to Punch. A Labour Party, Abure sues INEC over caretaker ESCO. The Julius Abure-led National Working Committee has filed a lawsuit to stop INEC from recognizing the newly installed Nanadi Usman Caretaker Committee. Abure wants recognition instead for the March 27 convention that returned him and members of the NWC to office. I mean, a lot going on in the Labour Party. Abure and his team are seeking legitimacy for a convention that many people in the party saw as a total sham.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah. Many people saw it as a total sham. IFO is saying it's agreeing that they're in court. They couldn't reach Abure to say something. But IFO, the National Public Secretary, is saying they're in court. Again, the fact that looks like it's only one party. Okay, there are other parties, but I mean one major party that seems to be holding itself together. The PDP, I don't know whether to use the word in shambles. Even with what is happening,
near shambles.
Even with what is happening in Edo State presently.
Right.
And then you now have Labour Party. So who then is going to challenge the APC? That's the question here, you know. That's the major question here, because you're supposed to have parties, opposition parties, giving the the ruling party
a run for their money.
Yes. But they are seemingly at tenterhooks in shatters.
Right.
So it's not good for democracy. It's not good for the Nigerian out there, you know.
I mean, Nkechi, the courts are always left to pick the pieces and decide the fate of parties. So what we're seeing here, Abure now going to court again to make sure that he is recognized against the other caretaker committee. It's not the way to run a country. Party indiscipline and failures within the party definitely lead us nowhere.
Exactly, and I agree with Indy. It's just like self-sabotage. And when you talk about the incumbent government, if you say that, okay, they're not doing well, you have the opposition parties who are trying to maybe win the election come 2027. If you have citizens who don't believe in the government and you don't have adequate opposition parties, we're not going to go anywhere, really. If you're having all these internal squabbles, it's just basically taking away from the main situation. If you can,
and the real issues
exactly, and the real issues. We're just always talking about drama here, controversies, like a soap opera at this point when it comes to what's going on in the Labour Party and what's going on in the PDP as well. And so we'll just see what the courts have to say and how this plays out.
And are you surprised, though, that a Labour Party presidential candidate in 2023, Mr. Petrol, had always been on the sidelines, you know, shy to jump into the fray in what was going on in the party. But this time around, it is he and the governor of Abia State, who was elected on the platform of Labour Party, and some other members that decided, you know what, we have to get in here, do something. And so they set up this 29-member caretaker committee to make sure that elections are conducted at the ward level, local government, state and national, in order to sort of save the party.
Yeah, question of leadership. I mean, if you're the leader in a party, you must take the bull by the horns.
Right.
So, well, if you have decided to take the bull by the horns, I don't know what to say at this leader, because, because
they have a couple of years,
things are falling apart and the center seems to not be holding. But they say better late than late. So it's okay. If he steps in with OT, we'll see how far that can drive the Labour Party.
We'll be watching. Let's go to the international headlines. We'll start with Daily Graphic from Ghana. Elections too, they're talking about elections. Presidential quest begins. 24 vie for highest office. Eventually 10 aspirants are vying on the platform of political parties, while another 12 are independent candidates. Very interesting. Notable candidates are the current Vice President Muhammadu Bawumi and former President John Dramani Mahama. It's interesting they have a place for independent candidates in Kechi. You know, we've been railroaded into this two-party system, although in the last elections in Nigeria it was 3 parties, which was, you know, give people a choice. But independent candidates, shouldn't it be encouraged?
Here.
I mean, it's good to see that they have a lot of candidates, a lot of independent candidates. It just gives you the opportunity to be able to listen to other ideologies, a variety of voices, and just gives the people that option to decide if they don't want to go that institutional route with, say, Mohamed Bawumia and also John Mahama. But you also have John Mahama now coming out to sort of play that activist role. I know he's been calling for some sort of rally against the Electoral Commission. He says they lack transparency and readiness, and they're calling for a forensic audit of some sort of the election process. And so we'll see how that pans out in Ghana come December. We
will see. Washington Post, which will be our final international paper this morning. Trump seeks to rally support after possible second assassination attempt. He's emailed, well, there's an email to campaign staff and urging them to be vigilant. You know, on July 13th, when there was a first assassination attempt, you know, he got a lot of following. People were, you know, mortified that this could be happening to a presidential candidate, and everybody was like, who is afraid of Trump? Is that what we are seeing again this time, Monday?
Well, the polls have it at 44 to 42 on economy. Kamala Harris is doing better than Trump, which was supposed to be Trump's strong point. So
yes,
she's doing better than that, especially after the debate. And then Trump and his vice are still selling the narrative, which the governor of Ohio has said is false, and they're still selling that. And you wonder why. Why would you be selling it? No evidence, is a wrong narrative, it's been crushed, and you're still selling that narrative. I'm wondering how the Americans will look at, you know, a Trump and a Vance.
It's difficult for them to change course, Nkechi.
Exactly. I mean, they have to. You know, Trump is someone that stands on what he says. Trump, we just know him as that type. By that type of person. He stands by what he says, and he rarely ever goes back, except when he said, look, I'm not doing any more debates. I've done 2 already, did 1 with Biden, 1 with Kamala. And so that's going to be 3. So yes, he said, I'm not doing again. But that's all the time we have. He said because he won, right, so he's not doing it.
Okay,
that's all the time we have. Thank you so much, Dr. Ikoku, for joining us. We missed you so much. We have to have you twice now on the show. That's all the time we have here on Daybreak. Goodbye from me. Up next, it's the morning show. My name is Nkechi Nana.
I am Ndi Amogo. Thanking you for watching. Have a good day.